Welcome to episode 33 of the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I'm Ashley Scott Myers, screenwriter and blogger over at sellingyourscreenplay.com. In this episode's main segment, I'm going to be talking with Kateland Brown. Kateland works in television as an assistant, but she's had quite a bit of success with screenwriting contests. I get a lot of questions from people asking me if contests are worth doing, and I've never really had any success with contests, so I always feel a little strange answering these questions. So I figured the best way to find out exactly how much help a contest can give a young screenwriter, is by talking with someone who has had some success with contests. So stay tuned for the interview with Kateland. I'd like to thank this episode's sponsor, Screencraft. Screencraft is dedicated to helping screenwriters master the craft of screenwriting and succeed in the business of Hollywood. Sign up for free education and inspiration at screencraft.org. If you're on Twitter, too, be sure to follow Screencraft. They tweet out a ton of useful information for screenwriters. There's lots of articles on craft, links to full screenplays, and all sorts of great stuff for screenwriters at every level. If you find this episode valuable, please help me out by giving me a review in iTunes or leaving a comment on YouTube or retweeting the podcast on Twitter or liking it on Facebook. These social media shares really do help spread the word about the podcast. I'd like to thank Marty Wolf, Ben Trilabcook, Deborah McKenzie, Gatehaven Chronicles, Anna Marie Elsie Manola, and Craig Mack, who all retweeted episode 31 on Twitter. Thanks for the retweets. I'd like to thank Thomas J. Ryan, Marcello Grion, Ginger Shine, Lori Ashbourne, Diana Zimmerman, and Ellis O'Shea, who left me a nice comment over on YouTube. Thanks for those comments. I'm not sure why, but Selling Your Screenplay doesn't seem to have a lot of traction on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, please like our page. It's facebook.com/sellingyourscreenplay. I'm real curious to see if I can build engagement on Facebook. In the meantime, I'd like to thank Val Oliver, David Shepo, Anna Marie Elsie Manola, Dana Tyso, Lou Agents, who all commented on episode 31 on Facebook. Thank you for those comments, and thank you for liking the episode on Facebook. A couple of quick notes. Any websites or links that I mention in the podcast can be found on my blog in the show notes. I also publish a transcript with every episode in case you'd rather read the show or look at something later on. You can find all the podcast show notes at www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/podcasts and just look for episode 33. Also, if you want my free guide, How to Sell a Screenplay in 5 Weeks, you can pick that up by going to sellingyourscreenplay.com/guide. It's completely free. You just put in your email address and I'll send you a new lesson once per week for 5 weeks, along with a bunch of bonus lessons. I teach the whole process of how to sell your screenplay in that guide, how to write a professional logline and query letter, how to find agents, managers, and producers who are looking for material. Really is everything you need to know to sell your screenplay. Just go to sellingyourscreenplay.com/guide. So now let's get into the main segment. Today I'm interviewing 2014 Blue Cat Screenplay Competition finalist Kateland Brown. Here is the interview. Welcome, Kateland, to the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So to start out, I wonder if you can give us a quick overview of your career as a screenwriter.
Yeah, I've been writing screenplays for about 7 years, and I started in college. I went to Cal State Fullerton, and I was in the film program, and I realized that I wanted to write there. And slowly but surely, I've been working on my craft since then, and I've done a lot of extra classes. I've gone to UCLA Extension and furthered my education there, and that really helps. So I've just been steadily working on my craft and trying to get a job in the industry to also learn how to break story.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So let's talk about some of your successes. You and I were introduced through Gordy over at Blue Cat Screenwriting Competition, where one of your scripts placed highly. So let's talk about sort of some of your different scripts that you've written and how they placed in the different contests. You had one, correct me if I'm wrong, that was a semifinalist in the Nichols Fellowship. Can you talk a little bit about that script and how did you find that experience?
Sure. That was my second script I wrote. It was called Catch the Air, about an African American skateboarding girl, and And that one I was workshopping in a UCLA extension class, and I just decided to enter it, and it was pretty exciting when I got in the top 10%, and then kept making the cut. But I did place highly, but nothing ever came of it. So it was exciting, but even if you get in the top, like a semifinalist, it doesn't necessarily mean anything. Like,
yeah.
I sent it out, query letters out to agents and whatnot, and I just kept hearing, it's not a very sellable concept in this market. So while one has to write a really good screenplay to really get any traction or any attention, it really has to be a great idea and a great concept. That's what I'm learning, and I don't really want to, it's a delicate balance, because you want to write what you're passionate about, but you also want to get attention and as a writer, and you want to eventually sell something. That's the whole point. So
sure. So what is this when you say semifinalist in the Nicole Fellowships? What exactly? Like you said, the top 10%. Is that what it is? Like if you make it in the top 10%, you're a semifinalist, or is you said you kept going further along? What is the top? What is the semifinalist actually?
Yeah, there's multiple cuts. So it's the top 10% is the first one, and then it's the quarterfinalists, and then the semifinalists, and then the fellows or the finalists. So
I see. Perfect. So then you got your script was a semifinalist there, and then you said you sent out query letters to agents. How many query letters did you send out?
I sent out about 50. And I did get some responses to read it, but at that point, my writing, I was still a little verbose, I was a little wordy. So, with people who have, developed their craft, agents and managers can read it and they'll be like, oh, this is not a sellable script, but you're a really good writer, and so something might happen there. But at that point for me, the story was good and the dialogue and the characters were good, but I still had to work on, the actual craft of my action lines and just, cutting stuff out to make it a little less dense.
Sure.
I think was the main thing.
So let's move on. I read on the interview you did with Blue Cat, you had a script called Firestorm, and that was a top 10 script at the UCLA Extension Screenplay Competition. Mm-hmm. Can you sort of tell us what's that script about, and how did you find that experience?
That script is about a female firefighter, and just sort of like a woman in a man's world type thing, and the underlying story is that her father is a fire captain, and she's really just trying to, foster a relationship with him. And that was a great experience. It was really fun, hearing the news that I was in the top 10. And then I also sent out query letters for that one, and I did get one manager interested, and her name was Diane McGee. And she was like a lower level manager, like a smaller, and she was great. She really helped me. She's the one that was like, you need to, take out a lot of words. You need to, less is more. And she really helped me in that aspect. And she also got me one meeting with Edward James's Olmos's production company, and I actually pitched Firestorm as a TV series. And now that Chicago Fire's on the air, it sort of burns me, no pun intended, but, but that was a great experience. I had to go up in front of Edward James Olmos and pitch to him and his, associates. So that was really fun. But other than that, I didn't get much, anything else didn't really happen from that.
And is this manager still your manager to this day?
No. I was with her for about 2 years, and she was great, but I was also on Pretty Little Liars, and I was really trying to focus on being a great writer's assistant and, focusing on my notes and stuff. So I didn't produce as much as she would have liked, I think. And so we sort of broke off our our relationship. And, from Blue Cat, now I have another manager. His name's Daniel Vang from Bender Spink. So I'm really excited about that.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about, so Hambone, that's the script that placed highly in Blue Cat. Just tell us sort of about Hambone, and then tell us what's happened with that since you've placed in Blue Cat.
Okay. Hambone, actually, I had the idea when I was still with Diane, my manager, and I pitched it to her because I have 2 pit bulls and they're so amazing, and, I just want to show how great they are, and I wanted to, dogfighting is such a horrible thing, so I wanted to explore that, and my first pitches to her were sort of like a modern-day Lassie, where there was a kid and a pit bull, and he has to save the dog from dog fighting, but the tone was definitely off. And Diane was the one who mentioned, hey, it's a dark topic. You need to go darker with it, And so I actually rewrote Hambone 3 times, like page 1 rewrites. So it was quite a process, and I just had the fire under me because I loved the topic and I loved the story, and I knew it hadn't been done, and and I just kept hearing from people that it's a really emotional topic. So that sort of motivated me to keep going with it. So
then how did it do in the Blue Cat? What's sort of the award that you won from Blue Cat?
And I placed as a finalist in Blue Cat, so that's the top 5 finalists out of, I think there was 4,060 scripts submitted this year.
Great.
So that was pretty awesome. And the one thing that I love about Blue Cat was that, they give you free coverage. So, and this year they actually gave you 2 pieces of free coverage. I think they're only doing 1 this year, but that was amazing because I had 2 people telling me that they loved the story, right? So I had 2 people saying, there's this wrong with it and this wrong with it, but the character is great and the relationship with the dog is really emotional and powerful. So that was really inspiring. So you have a chance to rewrite it and fix, those things and resubmit it. So without that, I don't know if I'd probably place highly, but I don't think I would have been a finalist.
Now you say just repeat that. Did you get notes and then rewrite it and then resubmit it the next year, and that's when you became a finalist?
No, they give you a chance to rewrite it that year. So and no other contest I know does this. So and in my opinion, I think you really get the best material as a writer because you have a chance to rewrite it, and you have and their readers are actually writers and they're smart people, it's not just like Joe Schmo giving you notes. So, so as a writer, you get the best material out of it. And then also, Blue Cat gets the best scripts,
That is smart. Yeah, I didn't quite realize that's how it worked. So no, that's great. So then tell us a little bit about how you got your current manager. Did they hook you up with him, or did you do the query letters? How did you find him?
Blue Cat was great, and they, did an email blast to all the agents and managers in town and production companies. And I got 3 meetings from that, and I was going to go with one manager, but then I also did my own email blast at work. I was like, I placed in top 5 in Blue Cat, and to the studio and network on my show, and I actually got my manager Daniel Vang from Bender Spink through one of the studio executives at my work. So
I see. Perfect.
Yeah. So I would have gotten a manager through Blue Cat, but I ended up going with Daniel. So.
But the bottom line was this credential of being in the top 5 at Blue Cat. You think that definitely helped your ability for, this executive who you knew. It gave you some clout with her, and it gave her maybe some confidence to pass that script along.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's all about getting people's attention, That's why contests really, they really do help because you have to have some bragging power, It's like bragging rights, and it's just so hard to get anyone to read anything. I mean, even here on the show, it's like people are so busy, and it's like they just don't have time to read stuff, So you know, having that bragging power and say, hey, I got in the top 5, like people actually pay attention and they're willing to sit down and read your script for an hour, you know.
Mm-hmm. So let's just let's take a step back and kind of like a macro view. I'm always curious to hear sort of about like just some raw numbers. So how many scripts, feature film scripts, would you say at this point you've written?
I've written about 10, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I've written 10 features, and I've written like 5 TV specs and 4 pilots.
Okay. So, and all, let's say all 10 of these feature films, you've entered them into the various contests. Like take an example like Firestorm. Did you enter that in the Nichols Fellowship, but it didn't place? Did you enter it in the Blue Cap, but it didn't place? Did you enter all 10 of these scripts or some variation? You entered these scripts in multiple contests?
I did enter Firestorm in the Nichols. I did enter them. Yeah, I have entered them in many contests, and actually with Hambone, I sort of one day I just went crazy and I looked up, you know, the top 10 contests, and I think I had like $200 or $300, and I submitted to like 5 or 6 contests. You know, I just used up that money to do that. But it's like I didn't enter all of the scripts I had written, you know, only the ones that I really loved and I had been getting good feedback on, you know.
Yeah. I always think it's interesting, though, just the subjectivity. I mean, Hambone, you know, is one of the top finalists in Blue Cat, and, you know, for whatever reason, the readers don't necessarily like it over at the Nicole Fellowship. I just always think it's interesting to hear just how subjective these things really are. A good script can be forgotten, you know, can be passed over in many instances.
It's very true, yeah. So I would just my advice is to cast a wide net, you know, and if it's good, somebody, you know, it'll come through somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly my strategy, is cast a wide net. That's exactly good advice. So now you've mentioned a bunch of managers that have read your stuff, and you've had a couple managers. Have you had any interest through placing these contests from producers? Do you ever get producers contacting you? At all, have you tried to submit to producers?
You know, I haven't really tried to submit to any producers. Actually, no, that's not true. Last year, I tried to look up some production companies, and I did some blind queries, and I think I got 2 responses. One saying that they, you know, weren't looking for any material right now, and then another saying that they weren't interested in the concept. So. But, you know, I just haven't had much luck, you know, querying production companies. But to be honest, I haven't, really tried that hard. You know, I think I tried, 1 week or something.
Yeah.
And I actually didn't call them and, pitch to them on the phone. I don't know how that would work. But.
So what other marketing have you done besides the cold query letters and the contest? And obviously, I guess the networking as well is how you got your current manager. Are there some other ways that you've tried to get your scripts out there?
No, those are the main ways. I mean,
like Inktip, the Blacklist. You haven't tried any of those?
Oh, actually, yeah, I have tried the Blacklist. I recently put Hambone on the Blacklist website, and I got 2 downloads. So 2 people downloaded it and read it, but no one's contacted me.
Yeah. Did you pay for some reviews, or you just uploaded it and that's it?
I actually just uploaded it. So I don't know if I paid for some reviews, if that would make a difference. It probably would. So.
Yeah. So, okay, great. So let's talk a minute about your, correct me if I'm wrong, you're a writer's assistant on Pretty Little Liars?
I was writer's assistant for the past 2 seasons, and I just got bumped up to script coordinator. Okay,
perfect. So let's talk about that for a second. How did you get that gig?
It was a long time in the making. I interned on Smallville. Well, first, let me go back to the actual beginning. I took a UCLA Extension writing class, and that instructor, Bonnie McBird, she sent me an email saying, oh, they're looking for interns on Smallville. Like, you should go do it. And so I went and I did it, and I was waitressing at the time, and then I would go to Smallville and intern for 2 to 3 days a week. And I sort of like fudged the lines because technically I was out of college and I was just taking extension classes, but that seemed to work. So I interned there for a long time, like a year and a half, working for free, getting the writers coffee 2 times a day and getting them lunch and just making those contacts, And then from there, two executive producers went over and started their own pilot called Melrose Place. It was the reboot Melrose Place, and so they had actually filled up their writer's office with staff already, so I wasn't able to go and be like a writer's PA, but they were like, you can go be a production PA. And I was like, great, I need a job, I'll do whatever. And so I was a PA in the production office on the pilot, and then unfortunately they cleaned house with the whole production staff except for me because I knew the executive producers, and then a new line producer came on named Lisa Cochran, and I, her and I kind of jived, and I was a PA helping her, like, set up the office and whatnot. No one else was there yet. And she was interviewing assistants. And then I was like, well, I really like you. Like, I'd love to be your assistant, And she was like, okay, come pitch yourself to me. So I went and I was like, this is why, I want to be your assistant, and blah, blah, blah. I want to be a writer, but, I really want to know, how to be a producer as well, because I want to end up being a writer-producer, executive producer. And she was like, that's great, And so we clicked, and I became her assistant, and I was her assistant for that whole year. And then Melrose Place did not get picked up, but then I was able to follow Lisa over to Pretty Little Liars. And so I was her assistant in the production office for the next 2 years. And during that time, I was getting to know Marlene King and Oliver Goldstick, the creator and the showrunner, and all the other writers, And when the script coordinator got bumped up, everyone else got bumped up, so then there was room for me to come over here, and they were gracious enough to, invite me over. So that's how I got to this job. Yeah.
Perfect. So this is some solid networking and basically slowly moving your way up. So now, do you think this is a good path to being, I assume, a TV writer? Is this a sort of standard way that people break into television writing?
Yes, this is the standard way. I really don't know. I mean, unless you get extremely lucky, I don't know how you do it otherwise, You really just need to be willing to be a writer's PA or be willing to be a PA of some sort and get lunches for people and get coffee and, like, work your way up. I mean, it sounds cliche, but that's, you have to basically prove that you're a cool person and you're not crazy, and you're not emotionally unstable and you're a hard worker, and people respect that and it shines through, and, you just network and, people become attached to you, and you make friends, and
So since this is the standard way of becoming a writer, I assume the writers on the show, the showrunner, the producers, they know that you do want to be a writer. And have you started to, ask them to read your stuff? How do you sort of make that transition from, the office person to an actual creative writer?
Well, the good thing about being a writer's assistant is that you're in the room taking notes. So how it works is we have 8 writers, and we all sit around a table, and we all break each episode together. So people will pitch out ideas, for an episode, and I write them down. And so you're in there, and you're able to, on a good show, I mean, some shows are like, don't talk, but on this show, it's a great show, so they allow me to pitch ideas as well. So it's like you're part of the team, and you're, giving them your ideas as well, which is great. And as far as asking the executive producers to read stuff, I mean, once you work for like a year or so, It's definitely okay to ask your bosses to read stuff. I mean, my bosses are very busy, so they have read stuff, but it takes them a long time,
Mm-hmm.
But usually people are very gracious, and it's like it'll take a couple months, but, they'll eventually get to it. And I wouldn't overwhelm your bosses with things. Just, like, give like a really good sample to them, because you really only have one or two shots,
Mm-hmm.
And if it's something crappy, then, they're not going to want to read something else. So I would just make sure that you get coverage on it, or, get someone else's really good opinion
Mm-hmm.
on it.
So let's talk about, I know television, working in television is, there's a ton of hours and it's long days and stuff. So how do you find time to work on your own stuff? I know there's a lot of people out there listening to this. They're working a full-time job and dealing with that struggle. I mean, it's pretty impressive. You've written 10 feature scripts and 5, TV episodes in what, I guess, about 7 years. So that's a good pace. How do you find that time while working a full-time job?
It is very difficult. I get up early, and that's when I have my best ideas. So
Mm-hmm.
I try to.
How early is early?
Early is like 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:30, and I try to get like an hour to an hour and a half of good writing time. And sometimes that's just brainstorming or whatever. But you'll be surprised about how much you can get done with just like an hour to 2 hours in the morning. Because, like, if you write, like, a scene a day, you'll have something done in a month, Like, usually, that's probably, like, a TV pilot. But you can get something done in, like, 2 months by just doing 2 hours a day. So it all adds up. That's, like, 10 hours a week. And if you do weekends, that's 14 hours, so.
Yeah, perfect. So as we wrap this up, maybe you can just tell us what's the best way for people to keep up with you. You can mention your Twitter handle, and if you'd be willing, you have a website or anything like that. There's always people they'll listen to this and just want to follow what you're doing.
Oh, sure, yeah. My Twitter handle is just at Kateland Brown, and it's Kateland and then Brown. And yeah, you can just send me any questions you have or whatever.
Perfect.
And that's great.
Perfect. I'll link to the Twitter account in the show notes. So if anybody's in their car listening to this or something, they can find the show notes, and I'll put a direct link so you can just click over to that. Well, Kateland, you've been very generous. I think this has been a great episode. Some real, in the trenches information for people out there. I get a lot of questions about contests, so I really wanted to just bring you on and kind of talk about your experience, and I think we really covered that nicely.
Oh, great. Thanks so much, Ashley. It was really fun.
I'm going to be running another online class called Writing a Great Ending to Your Screenplay. If you have a great ending for your screenplay, it'll leave a lasting impression to the reader that your screenplay is good. But if you don't deliver on the ending, the reader is going to finish with lingering doubts about the quality of your screenplay. I'm going to be diving into the third acts and dissecting the endings from a whole bunch of great movies, including The Graduate, Rocky, Pulp Fiction, Memento, Planet of the Apes, Shawshank Redemption, Seven, The Sixth Sense, Citizen Kane, The Usual Suspects, and many others. So if you're having trouble with your ending or simply want to learn more about what it takes to write a great ending, check out this class. The live class will be Saturday, August 23rd at 10 a.m. Pacific Time. Just go to www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/classes. But if you can't make it to the live classes, don't worry. It will be recorded and you can listen to it later on. In fact, all the classes that have been done through SYS Select are recorded and available to SYS members to watch anytime they'd like. This class will actually complete the entire screenwriting process. I've done classes on how to choose a marketable concept all the way through to writing the opening pages of your screenplay, the first act, the second act, and now the third act too. Again, just go to www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/classes to learn more. Once again, I want to thank Screencraft for sponsoring this episode. They're currently accepting submissions for their pilot drama teleplay contest. So if you've written an original drama for television, this is a great way to get some attention to it. They have a great lineup of judges who all have many years of experience in the television industry. The deadline for entry is September 1st. Check out screencraft.org if you have a drama play you'd like to enter. If you're listening to this after the September 1st deadline, don't worry. They run different contests all the time, and we'll be doing another one like this next year. So check out the site for the latest contests that they're running. Again, that's screencraft.org. In the next episode of the Selling Your Screenplay podcast, I'm going to be interviewing screenwriter Eric Haywood. He's been staffed on numerous television series over the last few years, as well as selling some TV movies, and he recently wrote and directed an independent feature film. Eric is a true inspiration. He's a real hustler and self-starter, and he goes into all the details of how he got his career started and how he got staffed on many of the shows he's worked on, as well as how he got his first feature film going and financed. That will be in next week's episode, so keep an eye out for that. In this week's Writing Word section, I just want to take a minute and point out how deliberate Kateland is being in guiding her career. She's spending her free time in the mornings diligently writing. So she's slowly getting better at her craft, and she's seeing some nice rewards from this too by placing highly in some contests. But she's also spending her days working in a job that's eventually going to lead her to being a professional writer. And when that time comes, she'll be more than ready because she's been working so hard at becoming a better writer by writing. There are no sure things in this business. It's very, very tough business, and you can never predict who's going to make it and who's not. But she's about as sure thing as you are going to find. It's highly likely that she's going to be staffed on a show at some point, probably pretty soon. And in the distant future, she's quite likely that she's going to be the one creating TV shows. And that's why her manager assigned her. It's not just the fact that she won the Blue Cat screenplay competition. That's great that she did, and it shows that she can clearly write, and that's definitely an essential part of this. And it's not the fact that she's slowly working her way up in television as a writer either. There are lots of people who are doing these sorts of jobs. It's really the combination of the two things. By shoring up both ends of the equation, it makes her an incredibly valuable client to a manager. After all, they only make money when the writer makes money, so they want to sign clients who they think will make them money. And think about this as you go out and look for an agent or manager yourself. What do you offer to an agent or manager? Kateland has some good scripts, but she also has a career in the industry, which will quite likely result in actually making money for the manager who just signed her. I realize that not everyone can move to Hollywood and start working in production, but think about what I'm saying. Just having a good script or two or three isn't enough. Every decent writer has them, but you've got to have something more too. So what's that second thing that you have that makes you an attractive potential client to an agent or manager? Anyway, that's our show. Thanks for listening.